All right, hello everyone, and welcome to the launch of the Cyber Ability Training. I'm Kate Gould, and I wish to acknowledge the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet. We're very grateful to be able to virtually gather together today from across Australia and overseas, even though we wish we were all in person. I do want to specifically acknowledge the people of the Kulin Nations on whose land this project and the research has been conducted and where we're presenting from today. I pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. And I also want to acknowledge and extend our thanks to the people living with brain injury and those who've supported them for their openness, honesty, and their willingness to be vulnerable as they contributed to this cyber ability project and our research. Yep. So welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm Kate Gould and I'm speaking to you on behalf of our incredible project team, which includes Jenny Ponsford, Jao Carminati from Monash University, Anna Holiday and Malachi Clerc-de-Paul from Live Tasmania, Colin and Alf, our incredible leading ambassadors for the project, and also our steering committee, who include the TAC and the eSafety Commissioner. So we are absolutely delighted to have you with us today to welcome you to the launch of our Cyber Ability project and the training, which has been generously funded by the TAC. So we have a full program today to really showcase this project. We're going to start with a welcome address from Paul Clark, the Manager of Diverse Communities at the eSafety Commissioner from the Australian Government, who has very generously supported our project. And we'll also take you through a bit of the background to how we came about this project, because I think it has an interesting origin story. And one of the real strengths of this project is how people's living experience is really front and center. And so Colin is going to be sharing with us very generously and bravely what he has gone through to get to this project. We will then give you, if we've got time, we'll take a break, because I know that this can be a really long time for people to concentrate and be on Zooms and meetings. So we'll try to take a short break of about 5 minutes. And then after that, we'll get into all the kind of real details of what this training involves. The personal cyber ability plan, which some of you may have got in the post, the quiz that helps people work out how cyber safe they are, and we'll have time for questions and discussion at the end, and also in our second workshop, which will be more unstructured. So we will have a break in between this launch, and then people who want to stay on for the workshop between 2 and 3 o'clock, we'll be going through in brief what is a scam, our first topic of our training. Alf will be sharing his living experience of scams and brain injury. We'll be have an opportunity for you to talk about your scam stories and experiences. And we'll also have some hands-on technical support as best as we can do virtually and remotely online for anyone that needs some help with how to actually access the training. So just some housekeeping before we launch in, just a notification that we are recording this session, so that if you miss anything, it will be available, and we will send out an email to explain how you can access that after today. But it does mean that you might be captured in the recording if you talk in the question. So that's really up to you whether you want your video on or off. We'll just ask everyone to keep on mute unless you're asking a question at the end, and you'll have lots of options of being able to interact. So you can ask us a question in the chat box at any time. So that's the little button at the bottom of your Zoom screen, or you might need to tap on a phone, and it's got a speech bubble and it says chat. And so you can type in your question and we'll answer it in the chat if we can, or you can ask questions at the end of part 1 of this launch. And that also during the workshop in the afternoon, we'll have lots of opportunities for questions in written form in the chat and in in voice discussion as well. I have just had a request for transcription. The Monash Zoom doesn't enable us to do the live transcription, but when we have the recording, we'll put transcription on that with closed captioning. So I'd now like to introduce Paul Clark from the eSafety Commissioner to welcome us formally to this very exciting launch. Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Kate. And I too would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of where we meet today and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. These Zoom calls bring us together from across so many nations, but I'm joining you today from the lands of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. It's a real honour to have been asked to say a few words today to kick off the launch of this very important project. And I thought, to put it in context, I wanted to share a little bit of why this is so important for the eSafety Commissioner. As Kate mentioned in my intro, I'm privileged to be the eSafety Commissioner's Manager of Diverse Communities. As the world's first online safety regulator, we've been working hard for 6 years to provide a safety net for all Australians, to provide support and help so that everyone can have safer online experiences. In August last year, in the middle of the sort of first wave of COVID, when we saw a huge shift in how we all engaged online, we created our Diverse Communities team and published an important statement called Protecting Voices at Risk Online. This statement was based on research and insights of our investigative teams and identified those in the community who are the most likely to be the targets of online abuse, and also identified strategic priorities to help tackle it. Sadly, our research confirmed what we intuitively knew, that some in our community are more at risk of being targeted online of others and at risk of serious harm. For example, if you're Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander or LGBTIQ+, we know that you'll experience online hate speech at more than double the national average. People from culturally, linguistically diverse backgrounds experience online hate speech at higher levels as well. And sadly, and it's no surprise, that people with disability are also targeted online with much higher rates of abuse and online exploitation. eSafety is committed to continually monitoring and improving the accessibility of all our online resources and reporting tools as we try and ensure the language and the structure of the resources are clear and easy to understand as well. I've talked a little bit about safety just now, but the other side of that coin is security. Technology is no longer a nice to have. It's how we access services, find out about what's going on in our community, and importantly, how we connect with family and friends. Sometimes it can seem almost impossible to keep ahead of the latest online threats and know how to deal with them. That's why at eSafety we felt the development of this exciting and important initiative is so critical. And it's wonderful to have so many who have collaborated in the project here today. So in handing back to Kate, I'd like to say thank you to everyone involved and congratulations on the launch of Cyberability. And I, like you, are looking forward to hearing more about it. Thanks, Kate.
Thank you so much, Paul. And I think it really just captures how this is an issue with technology that affects all of us. And so grateful that the eSafety Commissioner has taken an interest in people of all diverse communities, but particularly people with brain injury who reflect 1 in 45 Australians. So a really important and large group that deserves that special attention. So I wanted to take you on a little bit of a background to how we came to this project. It's going back a few years. I think it's really worthwhile unpacking how we got here. So firstly, this really originated between Colin and I, pictured here in Hobart a couple of years ago when travel was a thing. And it's pretty special to be traveling with your client. I'm a neuropsychologist. I'm a research fellow at Monash University. And this was a real special moment in my career. Just to give you a bit of background to this, Colin had a traumatic brain injury, a severe injury in a car accident in 2005. And I'd started working with him in the community in rehabilitation in 2012 as his neuropsychologist. 2 years into our work together, Colin was in a online romance scam. And so that was really a really challenging time for Colin to make sense of the scam and to recognize the scam and to stop contacting the scammer. And it was also really hard for his family and for the team, and his rehab and the work that we were working on in terms of his other goals were really jeopardized by this all-encompassing scam, the contact with this romance scammer, the distress around that. And for me as his clinician, I struggled because there was no guidance of how do I help someone recognize they've been scammed, let alone someone with a brain injury. And how do I help someone change their behavior to stop making that contact with this scammer? So I tried a lot of different therapy approaches, and I was really struggling. But what was really key was that over the next couple of years, Colin and I actually studied scams together. We researched scams, we shared news articles, we spoke to experts in universities across Australia about cyber safety. And this was trying to make sense of Colin's story and his experience with the scam. And one of the tools we used was actually writing it out into a talk. So we actually then decided to share Colin's story with other clinicians and people with brain injury so that we could help them learn from what we'd discovered, and also an opportunity for Colin to sort of put into a narrative what he was going through. And we were very lucky that we were invited between 2016 to 18 to present at community practices, at conferences, international conferences in brain injury and the TAC. And one of the conferences at Brain Injury Australia, we actually had Alf in the audience there. And through our talk, Alf discovered that he'd been through something similar. And Alf is in Tasmania and was supported by Live Tasmania, a really major disability organisation. And they had actually conducted scoping interviews with 100 Tasmanians with disability. And they'd identified that cyber safety was a really concerning issue. So with all of these planets aligning, Alf, Anna Holiday from Live Tasmania, Colin and I formed this cyber ability team to try to expand our reach and our learning. So as well as that, this sort of advocacy work that we were doing actually left us with a lot of questions. And through my other hat as a Monash University researcher, I was really interested in exploring the evidence around this. So I conducted interviews with other clinicians to work out whether they had faced these issues and what they had learned. And we actually, with the help of honours student Matthew Carolan, we surveyed over 100 neurorehabilitation clinicians, and we found that more than half of those who responded to our survey had also had clients who were scammed. And then I did some in-depth qualitative interviews with more of these clinicians, and also found that, like me, they were extremely concerned about their clients, found it very confusing how to help, and no one had really identified any clear ways or pathways to help people extricate from a scam and help them recover. So with funding from the Summer Foundation through the Alan Martin Memorial Scholarship, we conducted some further workshops now with Alf and Anna, both in Victoria and Tasmania, and we evaluated the impact of these training sessions on attendees. And we found that not only did they significantly increase their clinical skills with being able to identify and help people about scams, but it also helped them turn that knowledge into action. And they actually did go out when we followed them up and talk to their clients and help improve their cyber safety. My student at Monash, Jao Carminati, and I then wanted to learn more about, well, what's the direct lived experience of people with brain injury being scammed and their family and friends. And we did another 20 in-depth interviews, learning so much from our participants who kindly consented to us holding on to those video interviews of their compelling stories so that we could help others learn from this. And finally, we started developing a measure of cyber scam vulnerability to help clinicians and others screen who might be most at risk. And so that doesn't exist. There isn't a way to sort of tell who might be vulnerable to scams yet. And that will be the focus of Jao's PhD. And that then brings us to this current project. And with funding from the TAC, we aim to work together to co-design or design online training now so we could reach the most people and we could work together with people with brain injury to create this training for people with brain injury to help them increase their online safety skills, increase their scam awareness, and their ability to self-manage a reduction in their online risk exposure so they could be better in control. And so this project involved not just Colin and Alf with their lived experience, but we wanted to bring in even more people and more perspectives. It's so unique how we all experience the internet. And so we did this across 3 just amazing focus groups, a mix of being virtual and face-to-face. And these focus groups helped us with this incredible ambassador team provide input into the content, helping us find the right tone, helping us choose an online learning platform, help us with illustrations and designs. And we're so very grateful to this team of people with living expertise who gave us such helpful, honest and personal input. And these groups ended up being more than just helping us design the training. They're also really warm and supportive groups, and we ended up noticing such a strong connection amongst each other. It helped people feel more comfortable about themselves. It helped them feel valued and validated, empowered by being part of this program. And also importantly, in therapeutic ways, it helped people reduce that burden of shame and feel like they could really make a difference and find that silver lining. So you might have noticed that there's a bit of a kind of nautical theme going on with our backgrounds and my outfit and the colors and things. And I wanted to show you throughout the videos that we've produced what that's all about. So hopefully this will work and you can hear the video from our team.
The internet is a bit like the ocean. Whenever you go online or use your phone for social media, emails, calls, or text messages, it's like you're the captain setting off on a voyage.
At sea and online are lots of fun and interesting things. The internet is a great way for watching videos, shopping and banking, playing games, reading the news, and chatting with friends.
But just like in the ocean, there are risks when you go online. On the cyber seas, one of the risks is being taken for a ride into dangerous waters where you could get scammed.
Scams are crimes where people try to rip you off, steal your money or personal information.
Anyone can be scammed, but people with brain injury may be more vulnerable.
We are people with brain injury who have been scammed, Monash University researchers and support services who have worked together to create this cyber ability training.
So come on board to learn how to safely navigate the cyber seas and avoid getting scammed.